I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And this is our review of Rainbow Six Extraction. And today, we are joined by a friend of the show, and I'm pretty sure by far the most guested individual on
most recurring guest
for the players. Most recurring guest, Paul James. How are you, sir?
I'm going well. How about you both?
I'm not doing too bad. How about you, Max? How are you feeling?
Yeah, not too bad. I had a sneaky nap before this, so I'm feeling a little bit more, perkier than usual.
Energized and ready to go.
I can't do it until 8 o'clock because my wife's got work. No, I'm just having a nap.
Having a snooze.
You fucker.
Now, it's fitting.
She was working.
It's fitting that we're doing this episode as a trio because Rainbow Six Extraction is a PvE trios game at its core, and we've all been playing it. So thank you to Ubisoft Australia for providing review codes for the three of us, which has been allowed to play at pre-release. Max, give them a rundown of what Rainbow Six Extraction is.
So, in its simplest form, they've taken all of the beloved Rainbow Six Siege operators and thrown them into a player versus environment situation as opposed to the competitive nature of the PvP of Siege, where you go through and you play out certain objectives throughout each level to gain experience and grow your operators and unlock new and fun things to do.
So thematically, it is a alien incursion where the idea is you go into these scenarios where you either have to take samples, return and save missing in action operators, do research on the things, destroy elite grunts or elite enemies, and so on and so on. So it's very objective based, but it's all in the premise of this alien invasion, which, knowing the original version of this game was Rainbow Six Quarantine, you can tell they very quickly reskinned this game from zombies/infected to aliens. What do you guys feel of the setting before we jump into the gameplay and stuff? Patch?
Look, it's perfectly overwhelming at times. In terms, we can kind of see this world reclaimed. Obviously, it's they're very contained spaces. You're navigating a police station, or you're navigating this part of a skyscraper, or whatever. It's never anything huge. We're not getting like a Last of Us style experience here, where there's this massive world. You can kind of see how it's reclaimed different parts of it, and how those parts blend together, or anything like that. It's not that sort of experience.
No, certainly not.
The nature of what we're trying to, how we're playing it, but it looks perfectly intimidating, and that black sludgy bullshit kind of reclaiming everything gives me the shits.
What about you, Max?
Yeah, Padge pretty much hits the nail on the head. So, they're very they're focused. They're focused areas. So they're not by any means small, because obviously each area has 3 separate portions to it, where it randomly assigns one of the 10 mission objectives. So each time you replay, you will get different mission objectives in each of the 3 sections of the map. Generally speaking, the maps themselves don't change between the 3 spaces. It's essentially more of the same, different layouts of the same area type thing. But thematically, they do match the previous sections as you progress forward. But they do such a wonderful job of hitting that light balance and making you feel like you're constantly under threat and you have no idea what's going to happen around the next corner.
Very much so, because with each time you run a level, you do have a time limit, and the reason being is the alien invasion is beginning to overwhelm the level, and by the end of that time frame, it's kaput. It's considered essentially a high quarantine zone, and yet you can't get out. So like as you're playing, the nests, etc., are spreading this infection across the level, and you're forced to be done. And then obviously as you progress longer in time, it almost feels like the more enemies begin to spawn. So the longer you're in there, the tougher it is. But you need to get your objective done. It's a very risk and reward balance. As I said, thematically, I'm with you guys. I did like it from a visual standpoint. It's very dark, it's very gritty, but it's still quite shiny and oozy. And it's an interesting theme. A lot of pointy pointy little aliens, like pillars and stuff, just coming out of.
I mean, some of them are called straight up spikers and all those
Yeah.
sorts of things. Like it's sharp edges and all that sort of thing. So,
But
it's like, we can't do zombies anymore. What do aliens look like? Well, they have spikes and pointy shit.
Well, let's use that as the next point of conversation. So it's the enemy type. Because you are doing solely PvE, the enemy types are incredibly important. Where here we get a lot of the standard grunts, your bloaters, your spikers, your elites, pretty much everything that you've seen in Back 4 Blood or Left 4 Dead, anything like that. There's a lot of the repeated types, which initially kind of bummed me out and threw me off because like, oh, it's just more of the same. But is a circumstance of just coming off Back 4 Blood that's giving us that sort of recency, or is it just that are these types just that overplayed?
Seen them a lot over the journey.
Yeah.
Like not just through the games you mentioned, like even in non-PvE experiences. I mean, hell, there's again, I go back to The Last of Us, there is straight up a monster called a bloater in there as well, and it operates in just the same way. It's a bit more of a heavy, it can deal a bit more damage. It's not quite like the bloaters in this are like the tickers in Gears of War. And they do things the exact same way. They scurry across the ground and this short little fat blob thing, they get close to you and they blow up. Like that's exactly how it works here. So it's a well-trodden path if I use that one as the example, and the same applies for the others. But it all works. Like I think what really matters in these sort of instances is then what your objective is. Based on whatever the objective is, and this is kind of on the design back end, what are the right sorts of infected or monsters or whatever it is that we need to throw at this person, this group of people, that is going to cause them the most problems given what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And go from there. And what I found through all the objectives I've played when I've played this review version, and even a few weeks ago when I got to play the game for preview, it was the same deal. Like it was really well balanced. It was really smartly designed in the sense that, okay, they're trying to do this, we need to toss these at them. If we're trying to stealth through, well, we're going to throw heaps of nests around, like in obscure little corners and those sort of things. Like if it's a stealth, go take this enemy down with a knife sort of thing. Whatever it happens to be, then they're going to throw specific sort of scenarios at you that just make it harder. And there might just be little things like, just make the nests like in really weird, awkward spots that you would never think to look. So that you might be walking through and you've missed it, and then something comes out of it and goes at you. Yeah, and so there's your cover blown. Like it's that sort of thing.
The game does force you to sort of like look up and around, and not verticality in the traditional sense of you're having to scale like Apex would as an example, but you really have to consider your surroundings, because if you don't, like Max, when you and I were playing, we got swarmed and obliterated.
But like, this game, you mentioned bloaters. That this game has essentially two versions of that, where one is just a pure explosive. It'll blow you up if it gets in your face, and the other one leaves behind essentially this poison toxic cloud, which prevents you from going into that area. So if you're playing sneaking, you're trying to take things out in advance, you've blocked your own path by shooting it in advance. But if you let it get too close, it means it's going to blow up and essentially flush you out into the open, away from your safe space. So you've got to play it. Really smart. And obviously, being based on Rainbow Six Siege, they do have that destructible terrain in the world that has carried over. I don't think it's as prevalent in this game as it was in Siege. A lot of the you can tell specifically what walls and what floors and ceilings can be breached and what can't. I feel that there's not as much as in a Siege map as opposed to in this game. There are some points where you can just straight run up and kind of just bash the wall and create yourself a peephole so you can see on the other side. This game does a wonderful job of giving you sound indicators when you're nearby something. Like a prompt will show up on your screen saying, "Hey, you can hear footfalls in this direction, or you can hear one of the aliens cry in this direction." So you can kind of judge where you are in relation to them, and that will that'll allow you to change the flow of your gameplay to suit the style of the map that you're facing at the time, which is really good too.
And that stuff on top of the tools that you've got at your disposal as well. But what we dubbed in our recording that we played last night, Betson, the wheelies.
That's right. Player 2 Plays. Check it out on the Player 2 YouTube channel. Padge, myself, and Sean did a couple of runs of.
Was it really you and Sean? Like I feel like it was.
It was all you. Yeah, we both had to be extracted a number of times. You king of the mountain, that thing.
Oh, Max, you would have been proud. And it was all guns blazing too.
Of course it was.
But with that in mind, one of the things you said, Max, there is playing smarter. So very similar to Siege, this game actually benefits you from thinking tactically and not being reactionary and sort of running into rooms. And when Max and I first started playing, and then the same when we started playing with yourself and Sean Padge, we just kind of went in, not really organizing what we're going to do, not planning with our tech and our recons, etc. We just kind of went on in. But very quickly we found out that if you don't work together, if you don't plan ahead, you are going to have a shit time, which personally I think is a massive improvement compared to most other first-person shooters right now. Mostly because I'm an old man, right? So like I don't have those twitch reflexes like I used to or ever had, so be able to play tactically and talk and communicate and think and apply strategy to what you're doing. And I think that, to me, that is the key of success, because with my skill set being lower, if it's entirely run and gun, I start falling back really, really far. Where here, if I'm just playing recon, I'm still contributing to the team. I'm still contributing to the clearing of the levels, hitting the objectives without relying on sole kill count. It's a big plus for me.
Yeah, and I mean everyone carries their own strategies, right? I mean, you just described yours. For me, from when we played together, it didn't work because I didn't realize I was lacking a silencer at the time. But like, I'm real big on, okay, let's go through and pick off all these nests because they're spawning out of these things. So if we can nip that in the bud, and then just continue to inch around, like maybe everyone else is doing what they're doing, but I'm just going through and I'm picking them off at the source, then that's going to make it a lot easier for us going forward. And I feel like actually in that run that thankfully is in the Player 2 Plays that's going to go live as of when you're watching this video, like that really highlighted that, and thankfully it was like recording my perspective. So if anyone wants to know what I'm talking about, please go check it out. I'll stop plugging things there. Like that style really complemented what you and Sean were doing. Like I was able to go through and I'll take out this and this and this and bang, 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 take all those out. And it gave you guys an easier ride at the same time. It allowed you to play your way. It allowed Sean to play his way. And so everyone can contribute. Like you can lean on your strengths. There's a little bit of communication beforehand. And again, that shows in the video because we were so keen to get the video started that we jumped into the game and, oh, hang on, shit. We didn't talk about loadouts or any of that sort of thing. We just jumped straight in and we got owned immediately.
Yep.
But if you take that 2 minutes to go, okay, well, we need this. Who wants to do it? You're good. You're going to go at least decently well.
I find the game really rewards stealth style gameplay too. So far from what I've experienced in the game, every single monster can be killed in one hit if you land that headshot and they're unaware. Same with if you're sneaking up on them and you do the close range melee attack. If it's a takedown, it's a one hit kill. They really reward you for taking that stealthy approach. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go in guns blazing, but I find that when I do that, you kind of chew through your ammo very quickly, and ammo is a very scarce resource in this game.
And that's one thing they do really, really smart about, like in terms of resources, because like there are resources scattered throughout, and they're scattered within the sort of transition moments in the hazmat. But even then, if you're playing a trio, there's only 2 ammo replacements. There's only 1 med kit, 2 med kits. So you're spot on. You have to really watch your resources. It's very clever.
I mean, we did the same thing when we played as a group. It was because although you can see your teammates' health, it doesn't give you a number for their health. It's like, hey, what health are you on? Oh, I've got 60. Okay, cool. I'm on 49. I'm going to take this health pack because I've got the lowest. And you just work with your team to work out what's going on and how best to progress to You want to get through the levels as much as possible because the experience points ramps up the more objectives you complete in that singular run. So it's beneficial for the team to work together and try and get as far as possible.
Well, that's very true. And a team is only as good as the sum of its parts. And with that comes in mind the operators that we are using. So that is straight up pulled from Siege. It's the same operators you've known before, like Sledge, etc. They're all there. But there is a difference here. If you play a character, even if it is your main, if it gets taken out of action, it's injured, they're Dunskies. They're out. So a particular character can be are either injured, as in they are inactive for a window of time, and as you play more rounds, their health regenerates. Or if you get taken out completely during a round, your character becomes MIA. They are taken over by a protection, like a protection chemical, and then the aliens steal them, and you have to go and essentially extract them back. Padge, how did you find this idea of not being able to rely on a single operator?
Look, it's terrifying at points. You're like, oh shit, now I'm out of my go-to, my default class that I'd like to play at. They're gone. Like there's a couple that kind of fit the same mold for each kind of class. Like you don't have one person who's this gun stealth or that sort of thing. Like you've got a few different options to work with, but like it does get a little bit. You start to get a bit anxious when oh well, I'm now out of this sort of character that I want. So now I've got to explore. So it encourages you negatively to actually go through and experiment a bit, learn about what the others can do, and it is rewarding. It pays off after a while. You do start to get a bit of a feel for it. You can still customize your weapons at the same time to make some little tweaks that maybe pulls it a bit closer, the person a bit closer to something you're comfortable with. But they're all things you got to learn. And as much as it's really a really anxious feeling when you've lost that person, whether they've gone MIA or whether they're just simply injured and out of action. It's a bit anxious then because oh shit, I'm not going to be able to do it in the next round. I don't have my go-to. You can still get there, and it's a rewarding experience to learn how to play as someone else as well.
Yeah, and then you sort of have to balance off your team as well. But look, I'm not playing my main. I'm playing a slight variant. Is there any chance that you can leverage this operator and I'll leverage this one, and then we sort of makeshift it together? So
yeah.
Whether you mean to or not, you are constantly progressing your skill around each of the types, whether it be like sort of your recon, your assault, your sort of all rounders. Like you kind of hit a bunch of different beats depending on what you were looking for.
Yeah, and if your characters are injured and you're somewhat proficient, I don't mean like a gun player. Like again, I mean anyone can watch the video. None of the three of us were like elite players or anything like that. But we took our time. We made it to the second and the third of the 3 rounds, and obviously we finished one of them. But because we managed to progress that far, there was a lot of HP that was recovered for those who were just simply injured. Like it didn't take them long to get back in commission. The very last one, we were actually successful. I had 3 people that were injured going into it, and all 3 were all good afterwards. Now, they weren't 100% health again. I'd be taking a risk sending them back in there, but they could be used if I wanted to. The MIA folk, I didn't have any of those at the time, but that's a whole other story. Going and extracting them is a fair old challenge at times. But
well, because Max, you had some difficulty the day of recording. You lost 3 operators consistently, back to back.
So I mean, it was purely my own fault. I wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing, and I was going into rescue one of my previous operators, because when you hit that level select screen, it does give you a prompt to say, "Hey, you have MIA operators in this area." So when you go in there, one of the 3 objectives will always be a agent recovery mission. So the way the progression works in this game as well is each individual operator has their own XP and they level up individually, and then you have I can't remember the term for it, but you have your overall account XP, which allows you to progress through and unlock new levels.
Milestones?
Yeah, the milestone levels. Thank you. And when you lose an operator, your milestone XP goes down. Now, that XP can be reclaimed once you reclaim your operator, but you do have a limited amount of chances to reclaim that operator. And I believe that if you don't make it in time, you do lose that milestone progression.
So you don't lose the operator, you just lose the progression you would have attained. Yeah.
So I dropped from milestone level 4 to milestone level 2 in the matter of about 20 minutes because I just kept making really dumb decisions playing solo, trying to get my guys back, and all it takes is one missed shot, and all of a sudden a whole room of guys are alerted, and then you've just got nowhere to hide anymore. And it was rough. So if you're gonna do that kind of thing, it is generally easier solo, because for the most part they do tend to push them into the earlier objectives as opposed to the later objectives. However, unfortunately, because it is RNG, I got unlucky and all my rescues were on the third tier of the map each time, even though I was playing solo, and it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah, just getting to that third objective, let alone then being successful, is an ordeal.
So I lost.
Especially solo. Did you say you were playing solo?
I was playing solo, so I lost 2 level 4 operators and a level 2 operator trying to get the person back. So that was rough. So next time I play, I'm gonna have a lot of rescuing to do. So it'll be good.
So
we'll all party up and we'll help you out.
That's it. So as we wrap this up, let's get into like sort of the nitty and gritty of it. Like let's all look at the technical aspects of it. So from a visual perspective, as I said, the game has moments where it looks amazing and then when it looks almost subpar. And so the cutscenes look tremendous. Where it's like it's really high quality, like there's great facial capture. It's real but kind of cartoony. It's this really beautiful balance, and they look amazing. Then you get to your main menus where you pick your operator, and it's bland, and like there is almost zero texture on any of the operators. It's really kind of flat and it's gross. But when you get into the game itself, it's this healthy middle. You know, where it looks really good. It's not as good as the cutscenes, but it's still very, very good, very sharp, very clean. Lots of good colors. It's fantastic. But that discrepancy between the main menu and just the gameplay and then the cutscenes is quite vast, and it really threw me off. Now, because when we saw the preview footage, because Padge and I did the preview together, I was concerned that maybe this was a preview build, but nope, it's exactly what it is in the full release.
Yeah, it's a little bit muddy. Those character models when you're in the selection screen is a bit muddy. It's weird. I don't understand how or why they allowed that to happen. Probably one that you can quickly fix with a patch or two, but I don't understand how it slipped through in the first place.
Yeah. What about you, Max? How do you think this
But it's only certain character models. It's not all of them. It seems to be only the what I would refer to as probably the lower tier people that probably aren't as as popular with the players. They're probably
no one's going to want to play as
picked.
them, so fucking
they're probably the least picked, so it's just like
It kind of varies. Like the one that wears the ballistic mask got the most deadest eyes you've ever seen, and like a really flat texture on the mask. And there's the one with the gas mask; it's super flat as well. And there's some, as you said, there are some that just look really kind of subpar. But one of the things you complimented as well, Max, was the audio design.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, the audio is really great, and especially the on-screen indicators on how their audio system works. Like I mentioned with the footprint icon, it gives you a visualized warning of when the enemy's about to scream. It seems that they essentially when they scream they pulse essentially, and if you're in that pulse, they know exactly where you are. But it gives you a heads up because you can see in the world all this red mist swirling around that person, and if you get the shot on them fast enough while they're doing that, you can stop that from happening. But sometimes you don't see it. It will hit you through walls if you're not paying attention. So it's you've got to really use those indicators and the sound to your advantage sometimes. But it can also backfire because if you're not paying attention and you don't have a silencer on, everyone's aware to what you just did.
Because so you have the visual indicator on the watch of your operator as well. So when you're hearing those sounds, it's also because you'll hear nest and your operator will like have this almost like sensor that'll beep 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 beep. As you get close to things, and it's also visualized in like a graph on the watch as well. And as you said, once you're spotted, you are wrecked. If you're not prepared, it's absolutely on. You're spot on. How do you find like the audio treatment?
No, works a treat. All the things that Max was just talking about, like that. Yeah, the fact that you can identify where they are in relation to you simply by listening. There are obviously the on-screen indicators, but even the audio cues themselves. What the rustling you might hear through all I keep referring back to the video, but like again, if people watch that player 2 plays, they will see on a couple of occasions me straight up swing around, pull a 180 because I thought in a couple of cases, in a couple others it was legit, but thought I heard something behind me, swung around. There was in fact something crawling along there. Bang, pop it.
Yep.
Or like little things like even like the nest, which I said before, like that's one of my main priorities. Like you can, like you hear this weird rustling, gross, sludgy rustling noise of whatever it is that's inside at the time. And like I could hear that as I was moving through. So I'm like, okay, there's something close. Oh, there it is up there in the kind of the top right corner of the room, deliberately hidden. Bang. Like that's really superb sound design.
Very much so, very much so. But one thing, the final thing, that one of the most important things really is the gameplay. To me, this felt like Siege in the best way. If you know how to play Siege, if you enjoy how Siege plays, which makes sense because it is one of the most popular sort of like esports games there is out there, and just popular games in general, you're gonna have a good time. I felt the game was to be incredibly responsive. It like all the little details were good. The one thing that Max pointed out that I can't go back on now is if dropping the rifles to semi-auto instantly improves control. It's a game changer fact. Drop it down to semi-auto if you can.
Yeah, most guns will have either a burst fire mode or a single fire mode, and you use so much less ammo, and there's like way less recoil. It does make handling the weapons a lot easier.
But
because of my priority, I'm a sidearm guy, so I don't default to that. And usually that's like when I wheel that out, it's because holy shit, like last night, you need that full auto. And so like I was the only one left. I'd managed to load both of them up into the extraction thing, but the monsters were coming straight at me like holy shit, and it was just spray and pray to get out of there. So it was kind of handy to go full auto at that point.
Yeah, but look. Let's get into our final thoughts. The game sort of surprised me.
Just before you get into the final thoughts, I will mention that there is a quick play option, but as we were playing it pre-release, we can't really comment on how the matchmaking system works. However, partying up is super simple. We had no problems forming parties, creating parties, joining parties. It was super simple. It does do that thing of the party leader kind of has control over everyone else. So if you want to, at the end of a level, you can vote to just replay that same level straight away. But if the party leader's like, I'm pulling everyone back out, I want to look at, rejig my inventory a bit, it will pull everyone out with them. It does give you the option to just leave alone, but it does give you the power to pull everyone with you as well, which is also good.
And it's cross-play as well, which is important to know. So I believe Sean was playing it on not PlayStation?
No, he was PlayStation as well.
Because it came up with a different logo. So it's like, yes, we were playing on PlayStation. It's obviously available on PC, Xbox, etc. So it's all connected to your Ubisoft account as well as your PSN or your Xbox Live account, whichever you're happening to use. So yeah, you can play cross-play, which is fantastic and integral in a game like this, where it is relying on online multi. Is if it's got cross-play, its life of this game is much stronger. But yeah, final thoughts. Oh, you want one more?
I was just going to mention one more thing. There are other game modes coming post-launch.
Yeah, so there's a little bit planned for in the future and hopefully more objectives. Because, final thoughts, the game's really great. So I'm really enjoying what I'm playing with it in terms of I prefer PvE over PvP any day. So it's ticking a box for me. I find the gameplay tight. When it does count, the game is visually ideal. I love it. It looks good. Playing with you guys has been a ton of fun. I really enjoy its support on communicative gameplay, where it relies on you to be able to talk to your teammates, to have that sense of teamwork and hitting your objective. Audio design, fantastic. Use operators is cool. There are moments where it doesn't look as rad, which is an only downside. But in terms of what the game was, it did kind of surprise me. I wasn't super invested in it. I just knew it was coming out. It was probably one of the first games upon release that we should keep an eye out for. And I'm glad I did. I'm really glad I did. Padge?
Yeah, it's a great game. I'm not doing the full review for the site, but I feel really, really positive about it. This is not typically, PvE versus PvP is absolutely my preference. I'm a PvE guy every single day of the week. But I wasn't all that down for it. Like I'm not a Rainbow Six player, whether it's Siege or whatever. Like I played a couple of rounds at your place once for one of the charity streams. That was about it. Enjoyed my time. I got a copy of Siege afterwards, and we never actually went on to play it together. I don't think I even installed it, but that's apologies, Ubisoft. But this I'm going to see myself playing for quite some time. It's sticky. It's got that in some ways indescribable sort of thing that just one more go, one more round, whatever. And it might be that I can go recover my operator now, or I only need one more round that I go semi decent, so that my operator, who's my go-to, is going to be right to go, and I can go roll with him or her again. Like it's that there's always that carrot being dangled in front to just go once more, because then afterwards I can do this, or hit my next milestone, or etc. etc. So they've really nailed that aspect of it, and it's going to keep me going for quite some time, I think.
What about yourself, Max?
Yeah, they've done well. Just adding on to that one more, the fact that each segment only allows for 15 minutes means you know exactly how long your one more is going to take, and 15 minutes in the grand scheme of things is not really long. Yeah. As I've said a million times on stuff like this and on our main show, I am a sucker for cooperative gameplay. Yes. I've enjoyed this game solo just as much as I have in a cooperative sense, and
that's big praise coming from you.
That's not often that happens. So I'm super keen to dive in more. I'm super keen to see how well you can play this game in a quick play setting of getting match made with random people. I wonder how well you can how well it works with or without a lack of communication or that barrier. Because it'll be interesting to see. But fantastic game, great way to kick off the year, and I'm having a blast.
There you go. Well, that was our review of Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction. It is out on the 20th of January on your PC, on your PlayStations, on your Xboxes. We recommend you go and check it out. But if you want to check out more conversations around Rainbow Six Extraction, go check out Padge and the team over at player2.net.au. Padge, give us the spiel.
No, you nailed it right there. Player2.net.au. Sean Nichols will be doing a first impressions piece for us, and eventually a full review once you get the opportunity to try out things like the quick play, and once the masses are in there, and just again like that stickiness that I spoke about before. Let's see if that's remained the case in a couple of weeks. You can check out a Player 2 plays that Ryan, you joined me for, that we recorded just last night as of when we record this. And at the ending, you got to see it. Like the way we smashed through that A-tier team stuff, S-tier team.
It's like one of those BuzzFeed quizzes, but it's important. Like you need to wait till the end. You need to see 100%. It through.
Like, oh yeah, you can see the progression.
You'll never believe how this ends.
You'll never believe how it ends in victory. But like what we discussed before about like how you work as a team, you can see that glue start to build as we actually progressed, and then eventually got to that final attempt where we cleared all three objectives in a great way. It's a really good feeling. One thing I'll just note from the preview actually that I did a few weeks ago is the Maelstrom Protocol, which none of us in terms of our review builds are far enough to actually try out yet. 3 objectives is not where it ends.
Yeah,
it gets seriously much longer and much harder. Think of that as being like your raid style experience. So Ubisoft was able to give me an opportunity to try that out during the preview window that I had, and yeah, that gets real. It's really intense. So if you've liked what we've described so far, and you are playing early days and you're thinking, oh, it's a little bit might be a little bit too easy for me. Firstly, there's difficulty levels, so you can toggle those up. But even if you're starting to smoke that, you've got that opportunity there with this extended mode that is really, really good fun, but so stressful. So go check all that out as well.
Well, we're going to have a lot more to say about this game over time as we continue to play it and have sort of improved thoughts as we continue. Max, where can people hear our continued thoughts?
Well, you can hear our thoughts every podcast goes live every Monday morning at 8 a.m. on podcast services, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we also have a that also gets uploaded to YouTube in video format at 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Times on the Monday as well.
And that is For the Players, the Pop Culturist PlayStation Podcast, one of the best places to hear about PlayStation in this country. And look, you get the trifecta of PlayStation voices in this country. This is it. This is the best. Just saying.
I'm back.
Humble.
I'm back on a PlayStation show. I think you've given me exactly what I need. Thank you.
It's done. Well, yeah. hope you enjoyed our first episode of More the Players, our supplementary content that we're doing alongside the main show. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you stick around, and we'll see you in the future. Check all us out on social medias. Those tags are above our heads. At HaggardMC for myself, at Paul James Games, at BPossessed101. Come hit us up, talk about Rainbow Six Extraction, or whatever it is that you like. But until next time, I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And I'm Paul James.
And we'll see you then.